Despite its hilarious jokes and intense fight sequences, Mob Psycho 100 often finds a way to tug at your heartstrings when you least expect it. This episode is surprisingly sentimental and reminds us what it is about Mob that makes him so special. Sometimes solving your problems doesn't always mean fighting, but it isn't to say this episode doesn't have its fair share of excitement. This third instalment brings a sad but satisfying conclusion to the end of the Divine Tree arc. Mob Psycho 100 episode 6 begins with Mob remembering everyone talking to him about his shirt and being popular, seemingly aware now that they were lying to him. He then remembers Dimple being honest with him about both, as the episode cuts to the present, where Dimple continues to make fun of Mob's shirt. He questions why Mob is wearing it, being somewhat offensive and rude throughout. Just as Mob appears to be getting angry, he expels his energy through the top of the Divine Tree, forming his own tree-like structure that fades quickly. He's afraid that his powers would prevent him from having a genuine conversation. He released them. He knows he can trust Dimple because he gave him an honest opinion about his shirt. As far as Mob is concerned, he is the same Dimple he's always been. Dimple does his best to convince Mob that he is still a threat, to no avail. Mob reveals that he understands what it feels like to become carried away, as he was earlier in the season. He feels that he let popularity cloud his judgment, preventing him from truly understanding Dimple. Mob apologises for having the wrong idea and not seeing that Dimple was only trying to achieve his dreams. It's a touching moment that proves just how understanding Mob can be. This is where the emotional parts of the episode start to show themselves, as it draws upon the history and friendship that Mob and Dimple share. The two have had a sometimes contentious but mostly helpful and friendly relationship throughout the 3 seasons that we have seen them together, with both of them learning a lot from each other and guiding each other through various challenges. Mob explains that Dimple isn't dangerous, but he got carried away, which Dimple initially denies, saying his confidence is backed up by hard work. However, like I said earlier, Mob says that he got carried away and apologises to Dimple. He says that he should have listened to what Dimple said earlier, instead of worrying about being popular and getting a bit carried away himself. Mob says that because he was so worried about this, he lost sight of what was important, that being his friendship with Dimple. Mob thanks Dimple for inviting him over when he finally got everything he wanted, saying Dimple clearly could have pulled it all off on his own but still invited Mob. He says this wasn't just a scheme but rather something Dimple wanted to do with his friend. This is where the core themes of Mob Psycho show themselves again. It likes to focus on the core power of friendship that has been a staple of shonen action shows for decades. It's not that Mob defeats the bad guys with encouragement from all his friends, but that his friends genuinely care about him and ground him and allow him to avoid falling into an all-consuming darkness. It's very similar to the anime classic Akira, is that this is a story about psychics that is also about being a teenager and the dangers of repressing your emotions. Every villain we meet in Mob Psycho 100 is someone who thinks of themselves as special and above others because of their powers, and Mob tends to defeat them not by strength, although there are usually some stunning fight scenes involved, but by empathising with them. Mob's biggest power is being able to peel away the villain's layers of self-loathing and recognising the lonely, insecure person within. This is because Mob himself is a lonely and insecure kid, except he has an emotional support system that helps him become a better person. Dimple begins admiring Mob for holding in all this psychic power he has had his whole life, which Dimple now understands with his own powers. He says he finally understands how amazing it is, adding that him getting carried away from being popular is cute by comparison. He continues applauding Mob for never letting it go to his head, calling him a true man who will be a big hit one day. As the viewers, we see the full effect of Dimple's brainwashing, forcing Mob to see him in his ghost form. As Mob's body struggles to walk away, we see an injured Dimple staying inside the Divine Tree. This scene switches back and forth every time Mob turns to wave at Dimple, seeing a ghost, instead of the ensuing battle happening in the background. The further he gets, the more Dimple seems to struggle against Psycho Helmet and the Divine Tree. The end of the episode finds Mob and Ritsuo at home, with the Divine Tree now floating away in the sky. Ritsuo questions who's responsible and why they would do it. It's established that both have had hazy memories of the night, with Mob not even remembering how he got home. Lying in bed, Mob still does not remember anything, but he's overcome with emotion as he suddenly feels the urge to thank Dimple for being his friend. The episode ends with Mob crying himself to sleep, something that we've never seen before. Once again, this show, it just shows how good it is at dealing with empathy. Throughout all the conflicts I've mentioned previously, Mob's never completely been in the right. Sure, every antagonist is up to no good, but they usually have a point in their philosophies, which Mob proceeds to integrate into his own. With Teru's debut, Mob learned that it's okay to use power for the sake of self-defense. With the Scar arc, Mob learned that it's okay to run away. With Mogani's arc, Mob learned that environment makes the character, and not everyone is as fortunate as he is to grow into a good person. With the Claw arc, Mob learns when to be strict with others for the sake of reforming them. Here with Dimple, Mob learned limitations of reforming people through strictness via psychic power. He also realised that he was a part of the problem. By casting people away when he got himself a full head, by discarding his power through trust 100%, he admits to his side of the misdeeds and takes the first steps to making a compromise. What truly makes this episode so great for me is how Mob is acknowledging the mistakes he made and how inconsiderate he was being towards his friend when he was close to accomplishing his dream. He didn't force their friendship down his throat, didn't lecture him about why he was wrong. Instead, he was appreciative of Dimple speaking truthfully to him and asking to be a part of his dream, and thanked Dimple for being so considerate. So he then decided to return the favour and talk to Dimple about what he wanted to do. Be the friend he should have been before and listen to his dreams and aspirations. And it's through this genuine friendship and support that Dimple realises that Mob was able to give him a greater satisfaction than being a god, and it's beautiful. Ever since his introduction as an ally, Dimple's biggest goal was being able to brainwash and control Mob for his own gains. In this episode, he finally managed to do so, and he used the control to send Mob home safely, even at the dearest cost to himself.